Shelley Taylor-Smith will give you a very interesting keynote speech. She is a 7-time world professional marathon swimming champion. She's done everything from a 79-kilometer shark-invested solo swim in Australia to the English Channel. She's done short swims, long swims, cold swims, warm water swim. She's an author of a book called Dangerous When Wet. She represented athletes at the FINA Athletes Commission. She currently sits on the FINA Technical Open Water Swimming Committee. She was honorary secretary at the time when open water swimming got accepted into Olympics at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. What you saw in that remarkable course, the 10K Olympic 10K marathon swim, largely fell on the organization skills of Shelley and her counterparts. My friend and unbelievable motivational speaker, Shelley Taylor-Smith.
It's great to be here. Atlantic City, 1991. I'm in 5th position. I moved to 4th, then 3rd, now 2nd, side by side with the men's world champion Diego Degano of Argentina. He goes ahead, I catch up. I go ahead, he catches back up to me, to and fro, back and forth. Nancy, my coach from New York City, be hanging out of the boat saying, "Shelley, shut up, keep going," as I'm trying to encourage Diego to stick with me. 2 kilometres from the finish, 33 kilometres from the start, 6.5 hours into the marathon swim. I take a breath and look back and there's no Diego. I'm thinking, oh shit, excuse me, oh shit, I'm in front, they're all after me now. I come across the finish line, winning by 59 seconds, in 7 hours, 12 minutes and 28 seconds, creating history, becoming the first female in professional marathon swim to win against all comers. I smashed the women's world race record for Atlantic City by 45 minutes, and the blokes record too. That's a male in Australian. And the men's record by, I don't remember how much, and created that history. Diego Degano came over to me, gave me a kiss on each cheek and said, "Shelley, Shelley, Shelley, you know you're dangerous when you're wet. Have you ever thought about becoming a mother? Because I reckon you'd be really good at that." I reciprocated and whispered in his ear, "You're dreaming. I've only just begun." Now, when you look about my history and you look at how no other woman, still to this day, has achieved what I did by the end of 1991, having a world ranking for both men and women in the history of any sport worldwide. The BBC haven't rung me still to tell me another woman's done it. And I competed, and I've got my counterparts, females here today, that were during that era in our sport, was very unique. We did not have equal prize money. So by the end of 1991, this little girl had a dream and never quit, achieved something that neither woman did. But my greatest achievement is that at the end of 1991, when I overtook Diego Degano in the world rankings, my greatest achievement to this day is that the AGM was in Argentina in February the next year. And they decided that it didn't look good having a female above men. So they created equal prize money. And finally, for years that we've been fighting for equal prize money, we had it. And that is my greatest personal achievement. But where did it all begin? Where did it all begin? This little girl used to go to bed at night with the bathers on. That's cozies, togs or swimmers for those that don't understand Aussie lingo. And, you know, my mother would come in and say, "Take them off and put your pyjamas on and go to sleep like a normal person." Now, my mum would leave the room. I had a spare pair tucked in my pillowcase. Put them on and put my nana's pyjamas on, of course, and off I'd go dreaming. But also within my pillowcase was my Bible, Swimming the Shane Gould Way, who is an icon in swimming to this day. And in that book, it taught me how to eat like a champion, think like a champion, and swim like a champion. And I hung on to that book. It was like my Bible. But if you know my background, I had no natural ability in swimming. How do I know? Because they all told me. And don't they love to tell you? And, you know, I would go bounding. You know, my dad would finish, he hadn't even finished jiggling his tea bag and his teacup, and I'd be in the car ready to go. Dad would reverse out of the driveway, cap and goggles would go on. And I get to the pool first before my teammates, change, rush behind the blocks, and my coach would go, oh no, here she comes. Oh no, and she's still smiling. And I would literally drag one leg through the gate after the other, and by 12 years of age I was diagnosed with being disabled. So despite being disabled, no natural ability, I achieved amazing things for my country and for myself. But you know, the reason I got there was because I had a passion. I had a passion for swimming. I didn't as a little girl dream of being a marathon swimmer. Did anybody else dream about you know, I never thought about putting 20 pounds on and going and larding myself up and swimming the English Channel. That wasn't my inspiration. I wanted to be like Shane Gould. And I thought if I just eat right, sleep right, respect my coaches, parents, teachers, maybe one day I could go to the Olympics. But that wasn't meant for me when I got third in 1976 and they took the first two. But I realised at a very young age, if you hung with the best, their habits rub off. Does anybody not know who this person is? This is Dawn Fraser. Okay, one of the greatest Olympians, 3 gold medals, 3 in the 100 freestyle, 3 consecutive Olympics in the 100 freestyle. Now you can tell I was seriously wanting to match her habits. I'm matching her beer for beer there. Actually, evidently I'm in front. And you know, Dawn taught me a lot of things. She kicked me up the butt. You know, when you hang with people and you want to know their knowledge as you are here today, you've got to take it on board. You heard Steve say we have a responsibility for the position we're in. Even as an athlete, I felt when I was, you know, FINA wasn't part of the International Marathon Swimming Series when I began in my marathon swimming career, but I felt a responsibility as an athlete for women because I was leading the world. And I used to get very upset. In 1991, after I won my first official world title in Perth in my hometown, I went to Bahia in Brazil, and I can remember we had a media conference with this many people and the athletes and the boat drivers, and we were doing a lottery for our boat drivers, and they said, they gave us a little hint and said that your boat driver would take you on the best course depending how much you paid him. I quickly got up and walked out and made the front page of the paper the next day. Something inside me said that wasn't right. And I don't know about you, but I think you fight for what's right and just, and that's why we're here today. We have a responsibility. And why are you here? It's not about ignorance anymore, okay? Ignorance is not going to get us, and it's not going to get us the right media attention for our sport anymore. And that's the serious part, isn't it? We have an obligation. Safety is paramount for our athletes. And, you know, I can remember swimming as Karen and Lisa can remember, and even Megan, I think, swam in Argentina, is that right? And, you know, I can remember in 1994, I was going for my 7th world title. And I can remember I won the title, but got out, and I was in the change rooms in tears, and someone said, are you excited? Are you so proud of getting the world title? I said, no, I just heard that the female boats were so old and they broke down. One blew up. And I just was upset that I didn't win on fair competition. I was really upset about that. So ignorance is no longer tolerated in our sport. So I think it comes down to a mindset. And you know, as the champion marathon swimmer my attitude, but more than anything, was my focus, was my key. The most important 6 inches of your body is the distance between your ears. And that is what got me where I am today, is that I had I had a desirable quench and thirst and hunger for knowledge. I came to this conference because I wanted to share my excitement and my passion for open water, because I learned about open water swimming in America. I didn't learn about open water swimming in Australia. I was a razorback, pig suey. And, you know, I was a pool swimmer, and my coach was Sam Freeze, who was Paul Asmuth's coach when he was a world champion, and that's how I fell into marathon swimming. Was someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, you've got the potential to be a world marathon swimming champion, and I knew nothing about the sport. But all of a sudden, someone gave me the focus and the drive to go for something. And that's how I got into marathon swimming. But it was interesting that in Perth in 1991, understanding that focus was going to get me across the line, that we had major problems. Do you have major problems that you've got to deal with daily in your events? Can you think of one? Okay. And, you know, for us in 1991, as Karen will understand, it was the jellyfish. Remember, Karen? And, you know, I sat down with my sports psychologist and I thought, how can we turn something that is a problem into an asset? How can we really turn this unique risk into an opportunity? And I said, you know, there's big brown ones, you know, the size of dustbin lids. And you've got tentacles about, you know, 1 metre long, 3 feet. And I said, you're out there and you're bang, bang, you know, and you're hitting your head up against the brick wall. And my psychologist going, oh, that sounds like it's really fun. And I said, no, it's bloody annoying. And I said, but that's not the real problem. I said, we've got these little clear ones. Where's the gentleman from the Stingmate? Is he in the room? And so, you know, these stingers, these jellyfish actually stung, but there was more like it was an electric shock over and over and over. Has anybody been stung by what I'm talking about? And, you know, my sports psychologist is saying to me, well, you know, this is fantastic. We're going to turn this into a positive. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah. And I said, but the little ones get stuck in some places being a female, you know, and you don't have time to pull your bathers down in a world championship, pull out your jellyfish and keep going. So he said, these big ones, I want you to imagine that every time you bump into them, they're your friends. They're your supporters. I'm like, right. And he said, Dan, but these little clear ones, this is going to take a tougher mindset, Shelley. He said, every time they sting you, I want you to imagine they're showing you their affection. He said, actually, I want you to imagine they're actually kissing you. I'm thinking I've had better kisses and I've had worse ones. But what was interesting is as I got down there, you know, I remembered, you know, swimmers would not train in the Swan River because of those problems. But I turned this negative into a positive. And the day of the World Championships, which Karen can remember, you couldn't put your hand through the water. You know, the doctor, the sea breeze hadn't come in, they were out there sunbaking. And, you know, I had friends out there, millions of them, millions cheering me on. And that is how I achieved that gold medal that day. I really believe that I embraced all the problems of that event and said, how can I make this work in my favour? So if you think about one problem in your organisation, in your event right now, how are you going to embrace that jellyfish and say, what do I need to learn about you that's going to make me a better person, a better organiser, a better coach? Because every swim I went in was not about winning a gold medal for Australia. It was about what can I learn about Shelley Taylor-Smith. I owe the men like Paul Asmuth all my achievements because I had the ability to swim with men like all of the female in my era. We raced blokes, not women. Women don't get that opportunity in sport very often. And it wasn't about racing the men to beat men. It was like, how good can I be today? We were in a very unique situation. And it happens in our sport all around the globe today. You have mass participation events, correct? And you have men and women swimming together. Do you not? Yeah. And you know, it was an exciting era, a very exciting era. And you had to have the right attitude. Here's Martha. You know, I had the right people on my boat. That was Nancy. You know, an Australian tracksuit with a New York accent, singing in the national anthem was quite funny. But I had rituals and I had a plan and I was prepared. I know I upset a lot of organisers over my career. But it was because I was there to support all athletes. When I was swimming, we didn't have an athletes commission. I was the athletes representative by default because I was #1 in the world. Diego Degana was the men's athlete. And we used to sit with all the organisers at all the meetings. And we had to have the athlete's voice being represented. And we were blessed during that area because they did ask for our voice. It wasn't always what they wanted to hear, as you know. For those that when you work with athletes, it's not sometimes, you know, because there's sometimes a bit of prima donna. But in our sport, safety was paramount. Lake St. John has the record, I would say, for the best organisation in the world. I don't say that there because they're in the room. I say that because I have swum there, I have been pulled out unconscious in that lake, and they saved my life. 2 weeks later, Claudio Plitt came up to me after I'd been pulled out and felt like a failure. And he said, this swim is going to define you or it's going to define you. It's up to you. 2 weeks later, I went back to Atlantic City in 1992 and I had a repeat performance of 1991. How did I do that? I asked for help. Claudio Plitt, Paul, other athletes, And that was because of the organisation that supported me when I came across the finish line. So I'm very indebted to Lake St. John because, as you know, not all organisations have the best attitude at heart, do they? And, you know, I hope today when you walked in the room, you left your ego at the door. Because it's really important that if we're going to go ahead in this sport, we really need to understand why we're here. The reason that someone asked me earlier, Megan asked me, when did you decide that you wanted to have involvement with administration after becoming an athlete? I said, I think it was while I was being an athlete. A lot of people in Australia have asked me to go into politics. I said, I'm already in politics, I'm in sport. Who would agree with that? Yeah, you're in politics. I feel like I've been in politics ever since I won that gold medal. All of a sudden I realised that people were looking to me to represent other people and represent the sport, represent the athletes, what's best for the sport. That's a huge responsibility. But I took it on board because I really had a passion to make a difference. And that's why we're here today, to make a difference, to take this sport to the next level. I don't know if Steve's going to share some statistics, but this sport is the largest growing, in Australia anyway, is the largest growing recreational sport. How are you going to seize that opportunity? We've got a small window. How are you going to grab it with both hands and go for it? With your skills. It's about your attitude. It's about having the right intention with that attitude as well. And my attitude is sucked on many a day. Like you, would you agree? I've had many times when I want it to be all about me. And I was out in the race, and I'd be bitching about the boats, and I'd be bitching about this, and I'd be bitching about that. And my coach, whether it was Nancy or any of my coaches, would just say, Shelley, just get on with the job with what you do and swim. That's what you do well. Let us worry about everything else. So sometimes we do want to fix it all, don't we? But look at what you're good at and understand that it is about that attitude. And sometimes it comes down to belief. Sometimes it comes down to belief. You have a voice. You are here for a reason because you have a skill. I believed that I could be a world champion. I believed that I could keep going, but it came down to understanding what was my capabilities. See, and I learned that at a very young age. A very young age. When they wanted to fuse my spine and put a steel rod in, and I negotiated with my mum and dad and said, look, please, if you put a rod in my spine, I won't be able to swim. And please, please, I love swimming. Please, I'll do whatever it takes. But that came down to believing in my capabilities. And it started with that little girl dreaming. What's your motivation for being here? What's going to drive you today to bring out the best? Who here would like to be the best organiser on the planet? Okay. Stand up, the people from Lake St. John, please. Stand up so these people know who you are. Lake St. John people, the Canadians, the Quebecs. Okay? Go and introduce yourself. Speak slowly because, they're English. No, I'm only kidding. Well, they understand my Aussie lingo, so they're doing pretty well. But, you need to rub shoulders with these people. You need to exchange cards. Don't be shy. Don't walk away and say, I wish I had of. Seize the opportunity. Seize the opportunity. Swimming around Manhattan, when I can remember when I got into marathon swimming, I was at the U of A in Arkansas, and I didn't get to swim the Catalina swim, and my coach said, look, it's okay, there's this event up in New York City, there's a lot to look at, you swim around an island, you won't get bored. I got there, I swam with Paul, and with Steve Monotones, and I swam around this island, and it was Manhattan, and I got involved with people in this sport that I never knew existed, way back in 1984, and we're still in touch today. Who would ever thought I'd be standing here today from all those years ago when I was going to school at the University of Arkansas as a pool swimmer? And that became my passion and my drive in this sport. But as a world champion, it was interesting because there were days when I was out there and I didn't want to do it. I had to remember why I was in the sport. Why are you in the organisation? As I said, why are you here? What's the difference you're going to make? There's nothing better than coming across the finish line and winning a gold medal for your country. Nothing can replace that feeling. But it's interesting because there was nothing better than being out there racing a competitor. going side by side, whether it was Diego, whether it was Karen. We had a lot of fun along the way. Your passion and your desire, that was the bikini I wore so the jellyfish could pop out. That was the only time I don't think a world champion's worn a bikini. But look at the friends I made along the way. Karen's in the room. Haven't seen Karen since 1998. And it's amazing the relationships you build in this sport. Think about the relationships you're going to build today. That's going to make a difference in this sport. So we protect our athletes. I can remember showing up in 1997 in Fukuoka. I just turned 36 the day before the competition. And I can remember going into a room, much like this, with all the athletes. And they're looking at me going, oh, look at her, look at her, she's over the hill. You know, when's she going to go home and have kids? And then they looked at me, oh my God, she's still smiling. Oh darn, she still loves it. We're in trouble. And then my coach was standing next to me, Grub, when we're looking at the program. And some of my competitors, I said, gosh, they're getting younger. They're 18. He said, they don't have your experience. And I went back to my room that night and I looked in the mirror and I said, these lines stand for years of experience. They're after me now, these young ones. They're coming, you know, they're getting younger. And I'm looking around the room. I'm thinking there's a lot of experience in this room. And what are you doing with that experience? Are you sitting back saying, I'm over the hill? You know, are you letting everything out there dictate what's happening within you? And that's the important thing. I got out there the next day and, you know, broke my 15th world race record. Won by over 5 minutes. You know, a typhoon had come through, delayed the race for over 24 hours. But the thing was, they're all standing on the shore saying, oh my no, she's got all the experience. But I'm just standing there in that uniform representing Australia. What are you doing with the uniform that you're wearing today? You know how many times I practiced putting on that uniform? How many times I saw myself in an Australian tracksuit? That when I put it on and walked into that pool or put that swimsuit on, it gave me goosebumps. And that's how I became the best in the world. I trained like a world champ, but I also thought about it. And in doing so, that ripple effect, when I'm out there around people, it rubs off, doesn't it? What uniform do you need to put on to ensure that the people you're rubbing side by side with are going to be as passionate about open water swimming as you are, as passionate and committed to water safety as you? Protecting athletes. What do you need to do? What uniform needs to be worn daily? And understanding that these lines mean everything. Absolutely. That's why I get consulted to this day. I've been an athlete. I'm now coaching. I've been an athlete's representative. Those years stand for a lot of hard work, aren't they? You think about the hard work you've invested in this career that you're in. And yes, it's going to be hard on those days. There's jellyfish going to be banging up against you. And they're going to be wanting to drain you. And the stingers are going to come. And that, you know, you're going to be thinking, I can't handle this anymore. But I'm telling you, if you stand up for what you believe and what is right and just and hang with those right people, that glory, sharing that, walking side by side with your fellow competitors on your team is what it's all about. That day was the first time marathon swimming, open water swimming, long distance swimming. We've had a lot of topics, a lot of names, you know, over the years. But look, we're now in the Olympics. And I can remember, you know, Stephen said a sprint. My shortest distance was 25 kilometres. Wasn't it, Karen, Lisa, Megan? That was our shortest event, representing our country. Nowadays, they, you know, 5 and 10. And I don't think my hair would be wet by then. But coming across the line and being out there, and it's tough. You have a look at those people that are on my team. Do you remember this one, Paul? This is Atlantic City. It's you know, you get into the back bay, and if you're too fast, you get there against the tide. But look how easy I'm doing it compared to the people on my team. They're working bloody hard. Mental toughness, you know, surrounding yourself with the right people as we are today. You know, look at Nancy. Her eyes are on me. She got on that boat, she said to the guys, okay guys, I might be your worst enemy today, but I'm here for Shelley. Nancy was a chain smoker. She never smoked. She got on the boat. The first thing she wanted to do when she got off the boat was have a cigarette. She said, Lake St. John, she said, Shell, if you don't see me for 5 to 10 minutes, I've gone to the toilet, I'm having a cigarette. I haven't left you. I took Nancy with me around the world because I knew I was safe with her. I shared my prize money with her. When I won gold medals, I got little pinky rings with diamonds in it for her. She deserved to be on that dais with me. You know those people that you want on the dais getting the accolades with you? She sat there and she took care of me. The gentleman in the boat, one's a doctor and one's a dentist. They were studying at the time. And I think it was a lottery draw in those days in Atlantic City. And I found out what their favourite drink was. Because I wanted, you know, they were getting $50 for rowing 35K. It was a voluntary thing. So I found out what they drank. And I said, right, you know, here's a thank you present now. When we came across the line, they said, I'll row for you next year. That's because it's about teamwork. You know, when I was doing it easy at the back of the boat, look how hard they were working. And sometimes the people behind the scenes in our sport work bloody tough to ensure that us athletes have a comfortable ride. Would you agree? But isn't that our commitment? Isn't that your commitment? Absolutely. You know, on my This Is Your Life, I had a This Is Your Life show in Australia. Nancy came on. She was the surprise guest, if you've seen This Is Your Life. She was the surprise guest at the end. And Nancy made a statement. When I was on Shelley's boat, she never lost a swim. I didn't even know that. That wasn't my job. I was just to swim. But, you know, she took care of me, and I owe her everything. And that's the importance of this conference. Safety. Coaches are so invaluable in this sport. Nancy wasn't a coach by definition. She was a handler, a coach. She knew me. She knew my mind. She knew when I needed a feed, but she knew when I was hurting. She knew when to push me. She knew when I was struggling, when at one time in Lake St. John they wanted to pull me out, and she said, no, she's okay. And they all hovered around me. This isn't the time I passed out. This was a year later or two. Another time. You know, Lake St. John is a hard swim. It's not an easy swim. And Nancy said, no, I know her. She'll be okay. Just, you know, and they just stayed. And I got across the line and I won because of Nancy. Think about who are the people on your team right now that you haven't actually said thank you. Thanks for backing me, kicking me up the butt, holding me accountable. When you've wanted to quit this sport, you think about it. What is right? What is just? Are you the poster pin-up administrator or coach? Do you have your eye on the prize? Would you want her on your team? Is she prepared? Is she focused? Is she committed? Do you think she's done it before? Absolutely. Do you think she still loves what she's doing at her age? Absolutely. How about you? What do you need to readjust right now? Because we're in a revolution in our sport. They're going to come from near and far, and you better be ready to take this globally as it increases. You've got to be prepared. You have to have organised yourself. When I've been to Brazil, when I've been to Argentina, and they're going, Chile, 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 you know, pots and pans, 100,000 people screaming along the foreshore, coming through the harbour at Lake St. John, boats, you know, the horns tooting, and you get goosebumps. People waiting for you, whether you finish first or wherever you finish. They are waiting for you to applaud you, to applaud your commitment, to applaud your discipline. They want to know, how the heck do you do it? Why do you do it? It's the same with you right now, isn't it? Because it's hard, it's tough out there to fight for what you think is right. We have emotion, and you build fans. You build raving fans. They'll cheer you on. I've had amazing people on my team. The guys that I raced were on my team. They were my supporters, even though I might have humbled a few men. But you know, Diego calls me Queen Shelley and I call him King Diego. We have mutual respect after all those years, regardless of us competing. And here it is. All these years later, we still have that mutual respect and the fans for each other. What kind of team do you need to build around you? Who are the people that, as I said today, do you need to rub shoulders with? I look back on my career and I think, wow, I did it. But I look at the obstacles I had to overcome. My back injury, a benign breast tumour, chronic fatigue where they gave me 6 months to live. I've had a divorce. I've had a normal life. Because you think about it, compared to whom? I think of Libya. I think of everything that's happening in Japan. I've got it bloody good in my backyard. I have a roof over my head. My legs still work. I've fallen over. I've been pulled out of races. I've had a normal life. But you get back up and fight it back. Where do you learn that from? What's your resilience like? I have a passion, a thirst, a hunger for this sport. Because I believe in this sport. That's how my passion and commitment enabled to be around people in the IOC. I have many people that said to me, Shelley, I thought I would not be here when marathon swimming would be in the Olympics. Does anybody remember that? Yeah? Said, it will never happen in my time. You know, I used to just keep smiling and keep knocking on doors and keep asking the questions. Keep asking the questions. And you know when that window of opportunity opens, where we are right now? Montreal, 2005. And I'm sitting there and Cornell Marculescu, the executive director for FINA, said, hey, we've got someone from the IOC coming down. Can you put him on the boat? It was the 25-kilometre swim. Can you talk to him? Don't talk too much, Shelley, you know, because I get a bit passionate. And so he gets on the boat, and this is, you've got to understand, this is hilarious. The gentleman from the IOC says, oh, is this a heat? What heat is this? It's 25 kilometres. I said, no, it's a time final. And it was hilarious because, you know, I was, you know, and we were talking about it, and he said, how long have they been going stroke for stroke? There was 2 guys going for stroke for stroke. It was 5 hours. He was just amazed. And I sat there and I just shared our sport. I said, we're not going to do this in the Olympics over 5 hours. We'll go 10K. And I was talking about different things. But he got out and he said, these athletes are amazing. And that night, the other IOC members, and they were talking about it, and they came up and they asked questions. That's how it happens, window of opportunities. That was in July 2005. September, we had the new toes. We're sitting in Hong Kong. Cornell says to me, we need a proposal. We're meeting with the IOC next week. And I got goosebumps. I said, this is it. This is what's going to happen. And then the greatest joy was going to Beijing and training the Chinese officials. And I don't speak a word of Chinese. But I speak from my heart. And I said to these Chinese officials, I said, through a translator, I said, when August 22 and 23, 2008 come along, we are going to be family. We're going to be one team. We all have a responsibility to put on the best show for our athletes, to protect them the best safe. And when we came to Beijing, we were one team. Absolutely, one team. My goal in being here this weekend is to share my gold medals, my knowledge. It's to help you become the champion of your own world in your organisation. It's not about becoming a world champion, it's about becoming the champion of your own world, of your organisation. And when you share your gold, other people want it. They want to know what you're on. Many people have said to me, what are you on? Is it legal? Where do I buy it? And I say, it's inside you. And that's how I enabled myself to get up, get over it and get on with it. The longer you sit down and have a woe is me pity party and complain about things, the longer it's going to be for our sport to go forward. Absolutely. So there I was, 2 kilometres from the finish. All my jellyfish friends were laying around me. And they're all bobbing up and down. And all my school children were on the foreshore. To help you understand, I took marathon swimming on as a career. When it wasn't a career, it wasn't in the Olympics. I was a full-time school teacher. And I used to swim 100K a week. 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours at night. Tuesday, Thursdays were 25-kilometre days. And I tried to be an athlete's representative, a wife. That one didn't work too well. But I gave 100%. And, you know, I was on many committees leading up to the World Championships. And all my school children on the foreshore, they've got the green and gold Zinkel on. And the flags are flying and all the signs are everywhere, go well, go Shell. And the funny story is that on my This Is Your Life, my Nana said I saw it on a sign. And I said, Nana, that was the Shell service station. You know, and we're, you know, taking it in. I don't know if you remember the last bridge, Karen, and we're coming around and it becomes shallow and all the people are around, and you know, Sam Freeze was out there, and I had Dawn Fraser, and I had all my heroes, all the people, all my family, just people from around the world that loved this sport, didn't understand why the hell I wanted to do it, but were there to cheer me on. And all my school children, and I could hear them all singing the national anthem and waltzing Matilda, and Nancy's giving me my last drink. She's hanging out of the boat in an Australian tracksuit, tears pouring down her eyes. She said, Shell, I can see them. I can hear them. The gold medal's yours. And I'm like, where's Martha? Where's Karen? You know? She said, they're about 300 metres behind you. And as I took in my last drink and saw the jellyfish bobbing up and down, my mates, my friends, a voice came inside my head, and it was my father. And I was saying goodbye to him at 15 years of age. He said, come here, come here, come here. He said, one day you're going to be a world champion and win a gold medal for Australia. Now get out there, get up, get over it, and get on with it. When I came across the finish line, I fulfilled that man's vision in me, and that was the start of the next journey of my life. That was the start of representing this sport. You have an obligation right now to stand up, get over it, and get on with it this weekend, and fulfill your vision for this sport, fulfill your mission statement for yourself, for your organisation, but for your fellow athletes who you represent. And I guarantee 100% money back guarantee that if you don't quit, you will make it. Thanks for having me.